One of the biggest dramas in the entire Torah appears in this week's Parashat Tisa. Moshe was on the top of the mountain. He was studying Torah with Hashem. He was enjoying the most blissful bliss known to mankind. Suddenly, Hashem interrupts the class and tells Moshe, it's time for him to go down off the mountain to his people. Hashem informs Moshe that the Jews down below have committed an unspeakable offense. They've created a false god of gold, and they're in the process of worshipping it. Moshe hurries down the mountain, gripping the Ten Commandments in his hand. But when he sees the golden calf, and he sees the Jews dancing around it, he's hit with unbearable grief. The joy is out of him. He finds himself unable to bear the weight of the tablets, and they crash onto the ground into pieces. But the obvious question is, why did Moshe need to see the scene with his own eyes for him to drop the tablets? Why wasn't he leveled with the same grief when Hashem told him the news when he was still up on the mountain? Why did he break it up there? Perhaps Moshe was teaching us a simple but powerful truth. We must not accept bad news about a fellow Jew unless we see it with our own eyes. Yes, of course, Moshe believed every word of Hashem, but he wanted to impart a lesson for eternity. If Moshe, the greatest believer on earth, refused to act upon an unflattering report from the supreme reporter on high about his fellow man, can we do any less? Of course, once something becomes common knowledge and definite evidence is out, okay. But until then, we don't accept it. We must never believe negative reports about a person unless we've seen it with our own eyes. And even then, we must make sure our view isn't biased. And all this becomes 1,000,000 times more relevant when we move from personal to national and global news. How many more times are we going to accept unkind reports about the behavior of this or that group in Israel? Do we really know what's happening there? An agnostic press reporting unsavory stories is often so biased and distorted simply because they prefer ugly stories that sell. So why should we believe it? Isn't it embarrassing how often the public gets worked up over this or that report only to have egg all over their faces when the story turns out to be pure fiction? The story of the golden calf reminds us that even when the witness was absolute truth, the judge was God himself, and the crime was a heinous and fundamental sin of first degree, yet Moshe didn't want to believe it. So the next time you hear an unsubstantiated rumor or a story about someone or a group of people, just flatly refuse to believe it. And one more thing, remember, when a person repeatedly believes what he's not supposed to or not allowed to believe, the side effect is that he or she will find it difficult to believe what we are supposed to believe. Wishing you Shabbat Shalom.